Hey friends, I hope you're doing well. I'm sitting out here feeding the squirrels some peanuts and just thinking about a friend of mine that just passed away and figured I would talk about it a little bit. The Austin music community is definitely mourning the loss of John D. Graham. You guys might have seen an interview I did a few years ago on the channel here of John D. But John D., I believe, was the first person ever inducted into the Austin Music Hall of Fame twice. And the first one was his band, the Skunks, and later as a solo person. But, you know, when you think of South Austin, John D's just an institution. There's, anytime back when I had trips to Austin, when I knew I was going down there, you always hope that, you know, Ray Wiley Hubbard might be playing somewhere, Slade Cleaves. There's just a long list of people that I wanted to see. But Wednesday night at the Continental Club, you could almost always count on John D. Graham being there, and then James McMurtry afterwards. And it just really was one of those welcome to Austin sort of deals. There were other things, you know, I'd want to see Red Volkert play somewhere. And then if I'm there on a Monday night, I would go see Dale Watson there at the Continental Club also. There's a few things like that. The Resentments on Sundays at the Saxon Pub. But I'm getting off track a little bit. John D. was just one of those cornerstones of the Austin music community for a long, long time. And I don't remember how I first met him. I just remember seeing him live and knowing about him. And then one day we were friends, and I'm sure it had something to do with my buddy Cameron Smith, because he became friends with him after he moved to Austin way back when. But a little story I want to share that I think is pretty fun, and I think you guys will enjoy. I once heard John D., I don't remember the context exactly, but he was talking about Dallas, and he referred to it as the town that killed Kennedy. And he had this really gruff sense of humor, really funny guy, but in a very gruff gangster kind of way sometimes, like an old film noir person. It's hard to describe, but really, really funny. And he said something like, I got to go play a gig up in the town that killed Kennedy tomorrow, something like that. It just stuck with me. And about 6 months later, I was coming to Austin on a Greyhound bus, and I remember waking up in the middle of the night in my seat, and I kind of look out the window and I see the lights of Dallas, and I started humming to myself. I woke up in the town that killed Kennedy, staring out the window of a Greyhound bus. I just started like singing that to myself. When I got to Austin, I finished it real quick on my buddy Cameron's couch. He lived right in an apartment behind the Continental Club, and I always stayed with him then. And so I had this song, and I also had I got this thing from John D., which, I don't know, I felt like I kind of had to ask permission for that once I'd done that. And went to see him at the Continental Club. It might have been like the next day, you know, or a couple days later. Or not the Continental Club, but the Saxon Pub. And he's playing, and John D. had this thing where he'd say this to a lot of people, but you gotta be fearless. You gotta be fearless, Otis, you know, and jokingly with me, like, and I'd be like, I don't want to do that. You gotta be fearless. They're like, I'm not afraid of it. I just don't want to do it, you know, whatever it would be. And but it was fun. It was a fun thing that he would. You gotta be fearless, Otis. And so anyway, his band was playing at the Continental Club. I'm sorry, at the Saxon Pub. I keep saying that. And he kept begging me on, why don't you come up here and play a song with us, Otis? And I'm like, 'cause I never get up with people. It's just never been my thing. You know, it's their set, whatever. And he's just like, come on, Otis, get up here. And then he started in with the, you gotta be fearless. And I'm like, all right, what the hell? And he's like, what do you want to play? And I said, well, I wrote this song a couple days ago from a phrase that I heard you say. And then he started laughing. He's like, yeah? And I said, I've never played it before. I've never even sang it out loud. but it's got a simple chord structure, and I want to play it here for the first time. And the audience is like, yeah! And John D was just excited, like, okay, we're going to go for it. This is going to be something. I mean, really excited about it. I start playing it. It's a real simple progression that just repeats, through the whole song. And we start playing it, and his band comes in, and it's just like the loudest. I don't know. It just felt great. They're singing. John D, you could just see it, and he would get this excitement of doing it. You're in the moment doing it, and he just, when it was fun, you could see it. He showed it, and like he was right there in the moment, and we're smiling and laughing. To play it, it's probably the best version I've ever done of it. Hasn't sounded near as good since. It was just way too loud and ragged and beautiful, and a lot like John D. Loud, ragged, and beautiful. But so we played it, and afterwards he's just like, "You got that phrase from me?" And I said, "Yeah, the town that killed Kennedy." I was kind of worried about using that, so I figured I'd ask permission. And he's like, of course you could use that. You got to be fearless, Otis. Fearless. And anyway, I put that song on a record called Joe Hill's Ashes, which was a much quieter version. But that was John D, man. Just always ready to go for it. And I don't know. I have a few other memories of just hanging out. I remember us having a conversation about the you got to be fearless thing once, and I'm like, being fearless is not that hard. Like, that's the easy part. It's the showing up every day and doing the drudgery. That's the hard part. Being fearless and rushing into the dangerous situation. You can turn your brain off and do that. That's easy. But the everyday of it is the hardest thing. And he's like, yeah, I get what you mean. And just fun, deep conversations like that. But he was one of the first people that I interviewed for when I started doing my podcast, Thanks for Giving a Damn. I think he was the third person. The first person I interviewed was Phil Kaufman, Road Mangler, and second one was Ray Wiley Hubbard, and the third one was John D. And he was touring, and got some sun coming in here a little bit. See if I can duck that sun. He was touring, and coming through Nashville on the way to somewhere else. So I was like, where can we get together? And he didn't have any time, so he agreed to meet at this truck stop. And let me move just a little bit here. I ducked in and changed the angle a little bit because the sun was getting a little harsh on me. But yeah, we agreed to meet up at a truck stop southeast of Nashville, maybe 30 miles, 20 miles, somewhere in there, as you're headed towards Chattanooga. It's at 24, I think. But we met there, and it was very imperfect. And we sat down in a booth at this truck stop in like the diner part, me across from him, and I did an interview. You could hear the plates rattling in the background. I was kind of like, okay, I don't want to always do this, but he was game, and he was great. And it was just nice. And then I ended up interviewing him for this channel like 3 years ago. Me and my buddy Todd Fox stopped off, and there's a big long story around that I'll tell at a later date maybe. But we stopped off, and he shared a bunch of really good stories, and he was hurting pretty good. He'd had like so many, which some of the things we talked about is he had a lot of pain in his life, a lot of pain. And, from wrecks and from like physical and, probably otherwise. But he'd broken his ribs so many times in auto accidents and other accidents. And, he just was really getting around slow. And it was a little like, wow, John D., I hope he's doing all right. But I think he played a gig the night before for the first time in a while, and he was dead tired. I mean, dead tired from playing. But he'd been in and out of the hospital, and you just checking in on Facebook, you could tell he'd had a really, really hard last couple of years. I saw he posted a picture, an X-ray of his spine a year or two ago, and it was just unbelievable that anybody, I don't know, just anybody's spine would look like that, and you could just see how much pain that must be. But that time I was there for the interview, that's the last time I saw him, and it was a very nice visit. And but you always think, well, we'll catch up next time I come through or whatever. But John D, there's nobody like him. There's just nobody like him. He's a very special cat. And when I was talking about the guitar playing, he's a wonderful songwriter. There's a guitar playing. He had a lot of different facets to it, but one facet that I really liked was he'd play, a Strat into a Fender combo, and he would step on a tube screamer. I believe he used a tube screamer, if I remember right, and some kind of a slapback delay. And the exploding tweed Neil Young thing, well, this seemed more like a exploding. This was a whole other thing, but it was exploding. It's just like the excitement would go up just 10 notches. And when he did this, and he'd hit a couple notes together on the B and the G string, maybe that are a little bit, that don't work together so well, so you get all of that tension, and he'd bend it up, and just with the something about the tone, I realized a lot of it was his hands. He had these big, meat hook hands, and but man, when he would bend those up and then just choke it off, it just had so much energy. And it was not a precise thing. It's the beauty of, I appreciate people who are able to play precisely and all of that, but man, there is a whole other beauty to people who just I can just naturally go for it and bring it into some strange, wonderful realms. And man, he could do that. He could do that so well. And I always loved that. He would scream out, at some point, it's the freak out section of the song. He's like, "Every man for himself, fellas," and then everybody just starts having their freak outs on their instruments. It was a beautiful thing. When all of the gears lined up and the stars lined up and all that, it just all worked and was beautiful. It's one of those things you can't plan out. You can't put it on charts. You just kind of have to have somebody willing to, all right, we're going for it. Might work, might not. But John D had that. But anyhow, I'm going to continue feeding these squirrels and think about John D, and I wanted to just say a few words to you guys. And I know a lot of people out there were fans or even knew him. Feel free to leave whatever memories down below. And when I get some free time and my head's clear and all that, I'll go through and read them, and I'm sure it'll make me feel good. But I appreciate y'all. Take care of each other, and I will talk to you soon. See you somewhere down the road. Much love to you.